Welcome to YogiViews, where my guest is yoga itself, through interviewing those who practice it, teach it, sell it, or simply love it. I'm Antonio Saucis. Much as in ancient times the wise yogis gathered to share the knowledge of yoga, in modern times there is a growing number of conferences that address different aspects of modern yoga. I had the opportunity to visit Yoga Sangam, an international conference organized in Palo Alto, California by Yoga Bharati, a non-profit organization spreading health, happiness, knowledge and peace in life through a holistic approach to yoga, and also by the Swami Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation, a premier yoga university and yoga research institute in India that has published over 150 research papers in leading peer-reviewed national and international journals on health, education, management, and other fields. The conference celebrated Yoga Bharati's 10th year anniversary and Swami Vivekananda's 150th birth anniversary. The program offered 3 tracks: health, philosophy, and research, representing a true meeting of East and West. More than 30 speakers from various parts of the world participated and shared their knowledge and expertise. Amongst them was Sri N.V. Raghuram, the founder and spiritual leader of Yoga Bharati, the Vice Chancellor of the Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation, Dr. H.R. Nagendra, Dr. Sadhbir Singh Khalsa of Harvard University, and Dr. Shirley Tullis, the Director of Research at the Patanjali Yoga Peeth in Hardwar, India.
What do you think, or what do you feel is the spiritual implication of this conference?
As long as the yoga is just taken as a physical one and then only at the simple health level, like BP should be normal, this and that should be okay. I don't think yoga can really take you to that spiritual direction. Whereas when we take yoga at the holistic way, that is the physical practices, asanas, pranayama, meditation, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, these are all the things which are the different components. If you are able to take this yoga in a holistic way, then it will really help in the spiritual journey. And when I say spiritual journey, the whole idea is that man identifies with the body, and that's what is the physical aspect of it. If we start using the body just only as a part of need, but then basically he identifies himself with the consciousness which is supposed to be spiritual, then this becomes spiritual. The result of it is that today the talk that I was mentioning, once we are identified with our consciousness as a spirit, then love, compassion, harmony, all these things, they naturally, spontaneously manifest from within the heart. And I would like to see that a yoga teacher develops all these things so that maybe we'll be able to develop a future harmony in the whole of society with the help of yoga. And I think, that yoga is the only tool which can really bring about the harmony in the present day, the world with so much of violence.
What does this conference mean in terms of your work in the world?
This is further expansion of our work. This is our 6th conference in this country. First we started with Tampa University, then we had in Los Angeles, we had in Houston, in Los Angeles like this. Last 2 years back we had in Orlando. This is the thing. So periodically once in 2 years we conduct such programs so that people should get exposed to what the work is going on around the world, and bring the community together.
And what have you felt is the response of the general public or of the American yogis to your offerings?
Very good. Actually, ours stands very unique in terms of research. We have done maximum research in the field of yoga. Nearly 220 research papers we have published. Therefore, all those who are scientifically minded, they love our work, and they want to take up this. And we want to develop it further. For example, we have this research project funded by NIH, National Institute of Health, in MD Anderson Cancer Center on breast cancer. First study was on 30 people, and we got very good results. Based on that, we applied for a bigger grant. We got $4.5 million NIH grant, and it's going on very nicely now, 2.5 years. And similarly, Jefferson has come forward, and in Los Angeles we have started irritable bowel syndrome. Here first we had in UCSF on HIV and diabetes. That came out very well. So like that, different research projects will be starting throughout this country. So that research dimension of yoga should be brought out. That's our main focus.
And yoga has been in existence for more than 6,000 years without the need of any research. But what is, in your opinion, the purpose or the validity of research in the modern world in regards to yoga?
There are actually two schools of people. One school, they believe, oh, no research is needed. Everything has been established. We just have to follow that. But there's another school who says, yes, we have to develop it further, make it more socially relevant for modern time. Our challenges are different, our stresses are different, lifestyles are different, and we have many other challenges. And therefore, yoga has to be tailor-made to these dimensions. And our technology has grown, science has grown, our understanding of the physiology, neurophysiology, brain, all have developed to a great extent, and we should cope up with that. Always yoga provided that type of thing. Even though 6,000 years old, there used to be continuous conferences that used to go on in which they were updating, developing newer dimension. And it was not strange. And the research methodology that they had developed was far superior to what we have today. And this to be very rigorous. It will take 100 years to prove a few things. And that's the type of thing, and that we want to continue, that legacy, that parampara.
One of the questions that I have for you is that in recent years we have discovered through neuroplasticity that the brain is actually changeable, that it can change and then it can be remapped or somehow trained. What is the place of yoga in neuroplasticity?
Okay. First of all, yoga principally acts on the brain, and I think that's an important starting point. And yoga acts at different levels. It acts in the core brain, which is called the limbic brain. So probably that's where some of our memories, say, of a trauma are stored, like the area which is almond-shaped called the amygdala. It normally stores memories of emotions. So if yoga can actually help to make that part of the brain less likely to store the memories or erase them more quickly if they are undesirable, that would be a very good thing. And I think we may also say that yoga can bring about change in the very input that we have, whether it comes from within or from the external input, because it actually acts on the thalamus. We've got evoked potential data to support this, and gates the information which has access to the higher brain or the cortex. So it sort of filters it and makes it more selective there. So I would say that these two things happen. It acts on the lower brain, making it less likely for undesirable memories, like memories of a trauma, to be stored, yes, and which go on recurring and creating repetitive trauma in the person's mind as you relive something unpleasant. So that could probably reduce, as well as the sensory information or information like pain from the body can be filtered. So this is where there are lots of scope of change. And of course, finally, in the very reaction itself, I spoke about removing the memory of trauma, but whether an incident is considered traumatic or not may itself be changed if a person practices yoga for long. So more resilience, one may say, so that one's threshold goes up, and what was traumatic, say, some years ago, may no longer be considered so.
Because, as we know, yoga is based on two important principles, and one is unattachment, and the other one is practice. So spiritual success in yoga is based in these two principles. What is the value of practice, particularly in regards to neuroplasticity?
Practice, I think, is very important because in the brain, it's shown that when a circuit is regularly used, only then does a change become sort of long-lasting. Any circuit which is used infrequently doesn't produce a lasting change. So that's the value of practice in a very simple to understand and easy way. That's how learning takes place, basically. A circuit frequently used, and ultimately a behavior gets, or a pattern gets learned, because that circuit is repeatedly used. There are changes at the level of the synapses, of the receptors, and so on.
And I am not aware of research having been done already in regards to the relationship between yoga and neuroplasticity. Has there been anything done already?
Well, I did write a paper on this. I could send you a copy perhaps, which was a chapter in a book. But it hasn't been written, as to my knowledge, as a actual paper, apart from, of course, the work which you might have heard Dr. Satvir Khalsa quoting of Sarah Lazar, which showed that long-term meditators have structural changes in the brain in terms of increased cortical thickness. So,
in fact, this was one of the main avenues for discovering or for deepening the knowledge of neuroplasticity.
I would say it actually came quite a bit earlier, really, with the TM group, because they have shown that long-term meditators have so many differences compared to short-term meditators. As early as 1979, there was some biochemical studies done, which I think appeared in the Journal of Neural Transmission, which compared long-term meditators with short-term meditators. And there, the meditation spoken of was transcendental meditation.
Now, whether we call it ananda or we call it happiness, it is a very human pursuit to experience this feeling. Can neuroplasticity and yoga be used with this purpose?
Certainly yoga, because that's the ultimate goal in a way, to sort of empty the mind, and when the mind is emptied or is silent, then one experiences true bliss, because as long as there are thoughts, the thoughts could possibly create disturbances. even happy thoughts could lead to a sequence of thinking which may not be so desirable. So, yes.
What is your next frontier? What is your next passion? What are you embarking into next that is calling your heart?
Well, my areas of research are many, and I always like to keep it that way, because I believe that you need a certain passion and excitement in what you're doing. At the moment, I'm actually interested in prevention. Yoga for not just promotion of positive health, which I have researched, and yoga for treatment of disease, but for prevention. So I'm particularly looking at yoga for children, because I believe that if you begin practicing early, that can really influence the young mind and have benefits. So we've done some studies on school children, and we want to carry those studies further. And the other area is actually yoga for obesity, because I believe that obesity is linked to so many diseases. So if you catch a person who's obese but healthy and make them non-obese, you might prevent them getting a disease and needing treatment.
Now, despite the fact that there are a lot of types of yoga that involve kids under the age of 12, and that even in India we know there are competitions and anywhere from the local town to a national level. And then on the other hand, there's a lot of ancient scriptures that say that because of the inability to reflect on the self of young individuals before the age of 12, yoga is not really possible. What's your opinion?
To some extent that's true, because the philosophical aspects wouldn't be learned by a child. But it's important for a child to learn as early as possible good habits, like waking up early rather than, oversleeping and so on, getting into a routine, And yoga, I think, gives you a certain amount of discipline in your life, which would come if a child learns yoga as early as possible. And quite apart from that, there is a certain attitude towards life which goes with yoga practice, which anyone could learn fairly early on, which would be desirable and helpful later on in coping with living.
You have researched both in India and in the States. There is a popular belief that there is a big discrepancy or a big distance between the two researching modalities. Do you agree with this?
Well, if you look at it in a very if you look on the surface, it would appear so. For example, we did do a study here. I was here for 6 months in the University of Florida, and we did a study, brain imaging study, where we wanted to recruit meditators. We ended up with a very variegated population, including a person who danced in bars, a person who was a priest. So it was a spectrum of people who had different occupations. Whereas in India, if you looked at experienced meditators, you'd probably have just people within a limited range who have a spiritual bent. But if you look beyond the superficial, the changes which actually were found were comparable in both groups.
How do you see the future of yoga therapy in the world?
I think it's moving more and more towards a holistic approach where people are not trying to guard their own territory and say that my yoga is best, but there's a lot of sharing between schools of yoga, which is one way I look at holistic. I'm meant not segregated and limited to one school or the other school. People are sharing across schools. Apart from this, people are not thinking of just yoga as just physical postures, but are going far beyond that, and that's become almost very well understood. However, I would say that in some parts of the world it needs to be emphasized, because just about 7 days ago I was in Serbia, and there the International Federation there was very keen on us emphasizing the philosophical and spiritual aspects of yoga.
Different spiritual associations supported the conference, including the Shivananda Ashram in Grass Valley, California, the Chinmaya Mission in San Jose, Sambot Society of USA, and even Swami Amrita Suryanand Maharaj of Portugal.
Amrit Surinanda, muito obrigado por falar com nós. Eu gostaria de saber a sua opinião em relação a yoga therapy in America and in Europe. Are there differences? How is yoga therapy? Como é que yoga terapia se está desenvolvendo na Europa?
A Confederação Portuguesa do Yoga só aceita a prática de yoga terapia por parte de médicos de medicina tradicional que também são professores do yoga e que têm uma componente de formação na Índia de Ayurveda. Portanto, isto faz logo uma grande limitação, mas apela à qualidade dos resultados. Por outro lado, os professores do yoga ensinam que o yoga promove a saúde, é um grande promotor da saúde e que quem pratica yoga não tem necessariamente que ficar doente, mas se tiver, então temos os recursos dos nossos médicos que têm uma visão global. E esta forma de estar por excelência com a yogoterapia é aquela que nós temos tentado apelar à humanidade para seguir essa forma.
E você acha que os doentes, a gente que está sentindo a necessidade de yogaterapia, aceita yogaterapia?
Claro, porque necessitam de estar saudáveis, que é o estado natural do ser humano. O estado de saúde é algo que não se sente muito, apenas se é valorizado quando se perde esse estado de saúde. E então as pessoas, quando não estão saudáveis, procuram desesperadamente esse reequilíbrio, não é? Por isso é que é importante que haja
uma certa qualidade e honestidade, porque essas pessoas estão num momento frágil da sua vida e às vezes não têm tempo, e por isso é necessário encontrarem profissionais competentes e honestos.
E você acha que o mesmo nível de aceitação é compartilhado pelos doutores, pelo estabelecimento médico ou não?
Sim, nós temos muitos médicos que enviam doentes seus para o yoga. Temos muitos médicos que querem ter formação em yoga e temos muitos médicos que percebem que não sabem tudo. Que no Oriente há uma vastidão de sabedoria que neste momento é mais importante que o orgulho das classes, porque as pessoas precisam de se curar. E há muitos médicos com coração hoje em dia e que percebem que devem alargar o seu conhecimento para ajudar aqueles que os procuram.
Em Portugal, a medicina está socializada ou é privada como nos Estados Unidos?
Há os dois tipos de medicina, há a medicina privada e há a medicina estadual. E à semelhança do que se está a passar nos Estados Unidos, e quero realçar que vocês têm um presidente da era do aquário agora, que conseguiu levar a medicina aos pobres. Portugal também tem essa componente, portanto tem a possibilidade dos mais pobres, que são bastantes, poderem ter acesso à medicina com qualidade.
Muito obrigado, e muito obrigado pela sua presença aqui.
Obrigado.
Other key organizations represented at the conference were the International Association of Yoga Therapists, Taksha University, Niroga Institute, Vedic Global, Vedanta Society, the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment, and the Parliament of World Religions.
I bring you greetings of peace and all good wishes for this conference from the Council for Parliament of the World's Religions. As you are well aware, this was the first stop for Swami Vivekananda coming here in 1893. And what I would like to say is that according to the history of that time, what we could say was the last thought became the first thought. And that is really our work today. Let me explain. So in 1893, there was planned this Chicago exposition that was to show the progress of all humanity. And so they planned this huge exhibit showing science and medicine, technology, and so forth. And the last thought was, if we're going to show the progress of humanity, we should include the spiritual component. And so that was the last thought, but it came in that there would be a parliament of the world's religions. And this event became the watershed event for interreligious dialogue in our world. It was the first time that East and West came together. And as I understand it, Swami Vivekananda was not on the original guest list, but he had a divine call, and so he came. And of course, the rest is really history. When he came, the light of the divine was shining so brightly through him from the moment he arrived. All he said was, "My brothers and sisters of America." People stood up, burst into applause. What was that? It was the light of spirit within him. And so, even though he was not formally on the program, they quickly put him on the program. And they put him on the program every day at the end of the day so that people would come to the parliament. And so we see that this divine grace is always trying to make its way in our world. And all it takes is this realized consciousness to show up, and it is recognized. And so we honor that in Swami Vivekananda, and he would want us to honor it in everyone and to be part of making that first thought in our world today. Namaste.
she says when he spoke, he was a striking figure dressed in yellow and red, orange. And then he was shown like a son of India in the midst of the heavy atmosphere of Chicago at that time. The ambience was such. And when he started speaking, he basically tried to say that the whole idea is to realize the God within and without. The whole thing is to try to explore. It is not the west or the east, but like all streams go and finally join the ocean. Everyone has his own way, but finally the whole thing that matters is only self-realization and manifesting the divinity within and without. When he said that, and people were so moved, the whole crowd was enraptured. At that time, they didn't know what was happening. But everybody understood there was a subconscious telepathy that was happening between him and the crowd. And since then, what has shown the Indian philosophy of Sarve Jano Sukhino Bhavantu and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, basically to say that there is no individual religion or group or ethnicity or this, everybody is one, the whole world is one. And that is what everybody is understanding today. And also in the yoga, whether you go to physics, whether you go to science, everybody is trying to understand, as in India we say, the cyclical concept of time, not necessarily the linear one, but also to understand the entire human being is nothing but an energy and frequency. We are just like a wave in the ocean. You know, all these are happening, and today we are happy that so many of you are gathered here, and we have all these erudite scholars here to share their knowledge and information with all of you. And I'm so glad that I came here. I'm honored to be here. And they are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Yoga Bharati, and also fittingly they are celebrating this 150th year anniversary of Vivekananda's birthday. Vivekananda was one person at that time. He introduced India, Indian culture. I mean, we don't want to say to the West or this or that, because the finality is that there is no West or no, there is no East. It's all the same. That's what we have to see. It is an integrated thing. And I'm so glad that you are all here. 2 days of conference. I think they will explain, they will share their thoughts, and so much learn. And I'm very, very happy. And I hope that the conference will be a great success. And I have no doubt in that. But this will help in promoting goodwill, knowledge, information, everything. Thank you so much for inviting me once again. Thank you.
This concludes the first part of a two-part show where I'm featuring Yoga Sangam, Yoga Bharati's international conference. It was certainly encouraging to witness how at almost 2 centuries from Swami Vivekananda's first visit to USA to address the Parliament of World Religions, his wisdom and legacy continue to enlighten the minds and hearts of so many. And all thanks to the persistent efforts of his dedicated devotees. Congratulations, Yoga Bharati. You've done a great job. I hope you liked our show today. And if you care to let me know, shoot me an email at antonio@yogiviews.com. I look forward to seeing you the next time.